Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another next webinar. Today we have three great gentlemen who will discuss with us the very interesting and currently up-to-date topic, which is NBA or next best action the answer for excellence in field effectiveness and experience? This webinar will take 30 minutes, and I'm really glad to welcome three gentlemen who certainly can contribute in an amazing way to this webinar. So from my left to the right, please welcome Alexey Cherchago. Hi Alexey, how are you?
Hi Dario, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. And unfortunately the camera isn't working for Alexey. So, but in any case, we will hear very smart things from Alexey during this webinar, right?
Sure.
Then we have Gonzalo Llerena from Worwag Pharma. Gonzalo, same question to you. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much, Dario. Nice to be in this webinar together with Alexey and Jose Maria.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jose Maria or Chema, who is leading the customer engagement transformation at Sanofi. Chema, hope everything is good on your side.
Yes, everything is good. Thank you. Looking forward to the weekend already.
Exactly. So thanks a lot again for joining this incredible webinar. I mean, we certainly will discuss this aspect of next best action, which is a very hyped word nowadays, and all pharma is moving to that direction. But don't get me wrong, I think that before going there, we certainly have to centralize and define the fundamentals, right? And what I mean on that is that in overall commercial excellence and Salesforce effectiveness is actively discussed for more than 30 years, right? So how would you define the commercial excellence in today's environment, and especially after COVID? Let's start, please, with you, Alexey.
Dario, this is a really great question, and I would say that commercial excellence for me is about three things predominantly, right? It is, first of all, simplification, standardization, and innovation. Yeah, first two, clear that the function is driving value creation, commercial efficiency, right? And yeah, we are doing this via structured performance management. And here both simplification and standardization play a very important role. Talking about last element, there is obvious contradiction between the first two and the innovation because the latter usually brings disruption. And for quite a long period of time, customer engagement had transactional character, and all planning and execution processes were also transactional. Over last years, we observed several fundamental changes. HCPs expected better understanding of their challenges by reps. When pharma companies do more, they are recognized and rewarded by HCPs with more time and attention. You remember we discussed in a couple of other meetings success challenge. And the last is about hybrid or blended connections. HCPs most value connections that blend the best of virtual and in-person, assuming that we are focusing on the needs of their patients. Significantly, high degree of personalization makes the whole planning and execution process is non-linear, and innovation driven by commercial excellence goes beyond engagement itself. It requires COMEX teams play bridging roles among medical, marketing, and sales colleagues, and even take over responsibilities, I would say, around capability building, which traditionally were with the HR colleagues, for sure, except for customer-facing functions. And last but not least, it's change management, right? Standing in the value chain right before touch point between the rep and the physician. COMEX quite often should insource change management capabilities to ensure that innovative solutions can be implemented by countries, by our markets.
That's interesting. Let me just ask one additional question based on your input. Do you see that currently due to this transformation process that commercial is actually leading the transformation process and somehow trying to embed medical affairs, digital, and some other pharma functions into that process? and as a final outcome and goal to achieve this customer experience, this holy grail of engagement?
Answering the first part of your question, I would say it is more being an engine between different functions, because there are areas where commercial excellence is not leading, but we are coordinating this transformation process. Let's put it like this, yeah. Talking about customer centricity and actually unparalleled customer experience, which is now kind of hybrid hygiene factor, right? I think that talking about final objective, customer satisfaction now, customer experience now, is one of the most critical elements in our operation, simply because without this one, we can hardly get access to our customers, and the whole interaction cannot take place.
Certainly, makes sense. Thanks a lot, Alexey. Gonzalo, let's move to you, and again, coming back to the first initial question, how do you see the role currently in commercial excellence, and what actually changed after COVID and during the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dario. I think it's connected with Alexey was mentioning. I think for me it's the building the right commercial capabilities for the company, which can be completely different from a big pharma company to a medium size or a small pharma company. It depends on the size of the company, the complexity of the portfolio, etc. But we cannot lose the focal point about this is a change management process, because if you are trying to take basically all the taking a couple of books and say I will apply this and this, no, it will never work. This is a process. You need to set up a strategy, align it with the general strategy of the company, connect with the other departments as you were mentioning, like the medical department, even a supply chain, etc. Obviously, marketing, sales, all the areas connected, and develop a series of initiatives to build these advanced commercial capabilities in the company. But this obviously depends on the stage of the company and how fast the company is willing to move. And that's the connection what I was mentioning between the general strategy of the company and how the strategy of commercial excellence needs to connect. Yeah, in any case, this obviously changed and was accelerated by COVID, in terms of everybody's trying to find the magic ball that they will give us all the answers, and what you can implement to keep the revenues and continuous growing that we need. And then, let's try how prepared is the company, as you know, in terms of digitalization, in terms of the proper segmentation, how fast the countries are evolving. And as you know, in global positions, also not all the countries are at the same level. You have more advanced countries, others they are beginners, and then you need to measure in a different way in some case, how is the change management process and how it will be a successful implementation of all your initiatives.
Yeah, that's very good input. Maybe we can also add, like, we even have local preferences of our customers, right, which also can vary from compared to a different market. I mean, the very same customer isn't thinking in the same way in Germany, like, for instance, I know in Serbia, as an example, right? And somehow we have this impression that we apply this global strategy from company X and pushing it across all markets, right? Not asking the markets and customers what they actually need and want, right? So it is a change management. Fully agree with you, Gonzalo. Yeah.
Sure.
Chema, coming back to you, I mean, listening those two great gentlemen and their insights, and especially I would appreciate your input, since you're not a pure, let's say, commercial guy. You're much more related to customer engagement, transformation, customer experience, which certainly has a huge impact on commercial at the end, right? So how do you see this overall mix of answers which we heard so far?
Yeah, I was taking some notes because some of the things that you mentioned, they reflect my experience and also discussions I have had with other people in the industry. I think that in commercial excellence, if I remember my former times when I started my career, because you won't believe it, but I've been in the industry for 20 years. I know I look younger, but I have been already for some time. And in the very beginning, I had some experience in field force effectiveness. And I remember that back in the day, it was actually all about frequency and coverage, right? It was a formula already established. You cover a certain amount of doctors, you cover a certain amount of the universe, you visit them with this specific frequency. And I even remember that back in the day, we knew exactly how many visits did you need as a sales rep to convince the doctor to prescribe. It was an average, I think, 6 or 8 visits. I think I remember that. And everybody was safe. It was more or less like a comfort zone that you could apply the formula and boom, you wouldn't care for anything else, right? And I think that with digital, the first approach that happened was that we tried to put that model into digital, and I still see it. I still hear conversations in the industry about measuring number of digital touch points. What should be the frequency of digital touch points to convince a doctor, plus face-to-face, plus hybrid? So I still see that we're trying to fit that mindset of frequency and coverage into the digital environment. And I don't think, in my perspective, I think we should go more into what Alexey was saying in the beginning about customer satisfaction, right? So shifting the mindset, because we were caring about covering the right amount of doctors to convince them. Now the shift of mindset and the change management that Gonzalo was mentioning it's about shifting from that frequency and coverage to is really keeping the customer satisfied, going to drive more patients being diagnosed. And I'm speaking already in the concept of a marketeer, right? Is this going to mean for the marketeer to identify more patients? Is customer satisfaction going to provide a better market share, or is better customer satisfaction going to provide that the late adopters in the curve in the adoption ladder are going to start accelerating the usage of our mechanism of action? And I don't think we know that yet. I don't, because we haven't got to that point where we can make that correlation yet as an industry. So for something that I have seen is that people tend to do it more like a checklist. Like, for example, it's like, oh, I have to send 10 emails per month, then get it. I will get my incentive or whatever it is that I need to achieve. But the more we put focus on I help. Well, this is the ultimate message that I have been sending recently. It's about that. I think that the point we need to identify and make sure from the commercial excellence perspective is we need to help the reps understand, and also the rest of the company understand, that personalization and customer experience has been in the pharma industry in the job of the rep individual. So some reps were better, others not that good, etc. But they knew their customer. They knew how to talk to a different doctor who would be only interested in going to a congress. So they knew how to adapt the speech. They knew when not to visit them, etc. So what we're doing now is to industrialize that into the processes and getting the digitalization and ultimately measuring the customer engagement, which is something that I don't think all commercial teams have really understood yet.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, they are the face of the company, right? They are the first touch point.
Yes.
In most cases, right? Not in every case, but in most cases they are. So if you don't get it right, then of course we will go wrong. Long story short. Good. Let's speak about the NBA. We all know, of course, what this acronym stands for, so we don't really explain that. But my question would be, I mean, it's a very, very hyped term, especially a couple of months, even a year or so. And what actually is the role of MBA in commercial excellence, and how do you see this MBA whole story will evolve? Or on bottom line, do we really need MBA as a tool, or is it just a new fancy term like AI a couple of years ago? Let's start with you, Gonzalo.
Okay. Now, basically, I think you need to have the basics well built, yeah. And once you have this, you can go further. No? Also, if you're just working in the traditional channel, or not working in the digital environment right now, or you are not working in the multi-channel environment, yeah, this could be like okay, why not to continue doing what we are doing? Well, simple like that is, yeah, you would obtain the best for words. No? So the same or words. What I'm trying to explain here is next best action is it will be part of the process and the promotion side of each of our sales reps, even though depending again on how mature is the company and how mature is your sales team, you know, to learn how to follow this process and address the needs of the customers, you know, because each customer is different. Each customer has their own needs, and they don't want that you are coming with the same speech 10 times. You know? They want that you are connected with their needs, you know? And then how this MBA process will help you as a sales rep, you know, and connect better with the customer. That's the key element here. But for this, you need to set up obviously on a strong base, of different initiatives, and also obviously have your CRM in place with the CLM and other different elements that you can work together to define what is the next action that I need to have with this customer to move, as Chema was mentioning, across the adoption ladder, no? This customer to satisfy the needs that they are expecting from you. So what the answers that they are expecting from you as a sales rep.
That's very interesting. I would especially bold the sentence which you said, to connect with the customer needs, because again, sometimes it's so simple. We don't need tech. We just need to speak with the customer and ask, okay, what do you need? So ask your customer first, right? That's so simple that it can't be more simple, right? Chema?
Yeah, I was actually recently speaking with a friend who is about to give a speech, a lecture on this, because I agree with you, Gonzalo. We need to fix the basics, and from my point of view, we even need to upskill ourselves and really understand what is really next best action, because I think it's many people hear it and it's a blurry concept, and it has become a buzzword. So I have been doing some extra work on trying to get educated from people and this friend was actually giving me an example, which is going to help me illustrate my point of what I'm going to say. She was telling me that Netflix, for example, it's always the best example, right? Netflix, all the data, and she was telling me that, for example, in Netflix, if you are a person who watches a lot of romance, for example, and then Netflix and engine is going to recommend you an additional, not a romance movie, but maybe they're going to recommend you Stranger Things. You know, Stranger Things is a famous series, etc. But what the engine is going to do is going to suggest a picture on your screen showing the romance part of maybe the couple of one of the teenagers that are in the Stranger Things, to increase your conversion, right? So they do these kind of things. However, even though, imagine the amount of data that Netflix has, and yet this engine doesn't work 100% all the time. She was showing me an example that if you see the movie Bugs, you know, the ants, this old movie, you can get recommendations to watch The Human Centipede, which is actually a horror movie. So it's so taking that into consideration, on elaborating on your point, Gonzalo, on fixing the basics, I think that from my most recent conclusion about this is, yes, we will need some kind of engine like this, but the basics that we need to start is on getting enough data that it's not biased, because I think that in general, the data that we generate from the campaigns in the industry, it's mostly a linear journey, which I have spoken before about. It's a linear journey about inviting doctors, reminding them to come to a certain website or webinar, etc. And it's all about, it's somehow biased. And also on the other side, it's I don't think it's enough yet. So I wonder if so within the basics, getting the data, getting enough data, starting small. If I may, there's also another example that I have when I was doing this self-education process. An article from Harvard Business Review on this company. It doesn't say what kind of business they have, but it's they implemented an artificial intelligence engine that was actually reading the emails, and but depending on the email, the AI was sending emailings to the customers, to potential customers, and then reading the emails and classifying them as potential customers. And then once they had the potential customers, they would send them to the field force. And this was if you may, this could be like a next best action, right? Like a first step of a next best action. And in this case, this company had so many potential customers and so many sales that they had to hire even more sales representatives to cope with the amount of people that the AI was identifying. So starting small like this and having the proof of what AI can do for you can actually take you faster and deploy your system faster. And yeah, I think we should start small and doing these exercises and start getting that data, those data for our own engines.
So starting small and then scaling. That's always, I would say, the best, but of course, in many cases, issue to implement at the end. Also, great learning, no bugs movie for my kids. So thanks, Chema, for that.
Exactly. Bottom line.
Alexey?
First of all, great example, Chema. I like it a lot. And thinking about our ultimate goal, this is about probably successful engagement, right, between a pharmaceutical company and our customers. Therefore, to answer the question, Dario, we should start with another one, right? What does successful engagement look like for the modern web? And the first element here, for sure, it is emotional intelligence, right, including empathy. One can hardly be truly customer-centric without clear understanding of customer needs, right? Secondly, we actually should assume a natural two-way ongoing conversation between HCPs and medical representatives, right? High responsiveness to customer requests is a critical success factor here, and taking into the consideration challenges with access to HCPs, right? What we discussed in the very beginning. Reps should play a role of solution provider, right? Then they have a good chances to keep relationship with their customers, including personal touch point. Also, successful engagement is driven by ability of rep to distill complex information into, so to say, simple messages, and ability to use it efficiently, you know, when they're talking to the customers or sharing some recommendations. This is exactly the point where I think we should slowly move step by step to ensure that all transactional pieces, all transactional activities, they're supposed to be automated to ensure that customer-facing colleagues, they have enough space for emotional intelligence and for the elements which can hardly be automated. The border between the two, what to consider transactional and what not transactional, is probably a gray zone, you know, and this is what we need to understand. We should also do not forget about limitations of technologies and data incompleteness, like Chema mentioned, for sure, right? We should be really careful and consider NBAs nothing else than additional element, something supporting decision-making process. You know, not we can hardly substitute a rep by or rep should not follow, you know, only NBA recommendations. Here we should be really careful. Key ultimate goal again is successful engagement and moving from homogeneous face-to-face interactions, more transactional interactions, now when I have a lot of different channels, a lot of different pieces of content, right, to be able to identify relevant channel and relevant content for our customers, I think we should definitely support customer-facing colleagues in the field with different types of NBA tools. The risk here is actually to push them into wrong direction. This is how I can see NBA topic.
Makes perfect sense. Last but not least, analytics. I think, okay, it's certainly quite, it's too soon to speak about the KPI analytics from MBA, but how do you imagine what would be a relevant KPI analytics which comes out of the MBA and which can be actually implemented, like Alexey said, to deliver and to align with the customer's expectation? Let's start with you, Chema.
I knew it. Well, I like I was saying, I think it should go. We don't have the answer, and we don't have the one size fits all. I would say, coming back to what Gonzalo was saying in the beginning, because I don't think we have figured it out. But I think it would go into describing something like this. This is probably a futuristic scenario, but in my mind, this should be something like this. You should have an understanding of if your customer is to what extent your customer is satisfied at the current state, right? You should understand if you should have a KPI that tells you this customer it's at this stage, and this is how the evolution of that experience of that customer has been, or satisfaction of that customer has been. So satisfaction over time. And then you should have also a combination of how does that customer prefer to be engaged at that specific point in time, because again, preferences on engagement or channel preference, it's not a fixed target. And sorry that I'm going to have to elaborate a little bit more, but this is again something that I've been telling recently. Sometimes I see that marketing teams think that channel preference it's a fixed situation that they can just do as a market research or buy a report, and that's it. They have the channel preference figured out. But it's about the channel preference that it's constantly moving. So customer satisfaction over time, plus channel preference at that specific moment in time, plus the adoption of the doctor, where the doctor is, even if your doctor is highly satisfied, but you are still don't have a doctor as an early adopter, then all those should be your KPIs to tell you what do you do next. Well, and you can add as much complexity to the. You can say what kind of content does the doctor prefer, is it video but that would be next level for me. At least those three. So channel preference at that moment of time, customer satisfaction at that moment of time, and adoption ladder should be the guiding principles of how do we engage with the doctors and what determines our next best action. And again, maybe in the future when we have all the technology, it would become much more complex and much more sophisticated to include all the variables possible. But yeah, I think we're still far from that.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Chema. Alexey?
I would say that let me start with analytics in general, where even now we can see obvious transition right from pure descriptive KPIs and dashboards to predictive and prescriptive analytics, right? And there are different areas of AI application here with a quite different adoption level and satisfaction of end users. Therefore, a transition and development of different NBA-related KPIs, they should be aligned actually with the ability of our organizations to support proper education of back office and customer-facing colleagues in the field and proper level of adoption for all these technologies. Look, guys, if you look at R&D, for example, right, AI techniques, even now I applied across whole drug development process, nobody's questioning this. it helps speed up drug discovery, build predictive models, as well as, I don't know, discovery and identification of biomarkers, right? We have solid progress in AI methods, and everything is aligned to our expectations here. When we are talking about commercial in general, I believe we are a bit behind here, behind other functions. And expectations around ability of AI and machine learning, you know, algorithms, are a bit too high from my perspective. You know, because thinking about AI, we expect that we put all the data into algorithm, and as an outcome, after we run it, we can see, you know, perfect results, you know, and we would expect that reps can follow, you know, outcomes of NB recommendations, and you know, everything would work like we expect. Unfortunately, not. I think that existing analytical solutions, they can rather support decision-making process, and even adoption of these technologies might take some time for business colleagues. Talking about specific KPIs, I think that if you would like to run customer-centric operation, then together with most probably some input-related elements, we should bring some behavioral KPIs, and definitely, like Chema mentioned, customer satisfaction for sure. Maybe quite advanced level of measuring customer satisfaction, you know, but without initial attempts to understand what does it mean best alternative, what is best action, you know, what does it mean best action, without defining clear targets for quality of our engagement with healthcare practitioners, for the level of satisfaction we would like to reach. We can hardly identify relevant KPIs. And here, from my perspective, might be quite interesting to check what is going on in other industries. Most probably, pharma is not the only industry stepping into this, trying to resolve this challenge, this problem, right? And bringing experience from other domains might help us a lot.
Thanks a lot, Alexey. Gonzalo?
Well, my point will be in the following sense: basically what we want is to achieve customer satisfaction, yeah, that will reflect in improving the revenues of the company, and obviously having the patients following the treatments, etc. But this is the output, and obviously we can measure some part of the output, but also we will need to measure the activity or some kind of the interactions, all the steps that we are doing to arrive to this output expected. No? Means at a certain point we need to define at least, I guess, between 5 to 7 some KPIs that we need to define in terms of activities or activations that we are doing. Thinking just an example, like a key account manager, no? I need to do this, but now with the combination of MBA, we can do from different channels or different activities, etc. And achieving all these activities supposedly will give us the outputs that we expected. Means from one side, we will need to define between 5 to 7 KPIs about execution, yeah? And the other side, we need to combine with the expected outputs. And that's the combination of both that will give us the right KPIs and that you need to analyze. In the middle of all of this is obviously, yeah, all the analytics data that you can manage, and obviously have the capacity to manage and use this data for the benefit, obviously, of your customers as well.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thanks a lot. It was really a great webinar. So thank again to Alexey, Gonzalo, and to Jose Maria. Great pleasure. We will publish this webinar on our official YouTube channel. Take very good care, and looking to the next one.
Thank you so much for engaging discussions today, guys. Have a great day, and see you in the next session.
Bye.
You too. Have a great day. Bye.